Welcome to the Downfall Entertainment Podcast. Is it true what they say, that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism? When you choose to put a song next in your lineup, or add a new artist to your playlist, do you think about their personal circumstances and where the money from your stream is going? How much do people actually know or care to know about who they are listening to? In today's episode, we will be discussing 3 examples of South Korean music artist boycotts, and how fans had banded together in an attempt to change the unjust circumstances. Hello, my name is Lianna Estall, and you're listening to the Downfall Entertainment Podcast, the South Korean media podcast where their downfall is our entertainment. In this episode, the downfall is both about the successful downfall of a company who were exploiting its artists, and the unjust downfall of a young man whose career was almost completely ended just months after his debut. In this episode, I will be stating my personal opinion and the opinions of online fans. Many of the points made will be purely speculation, and 2 of these cases are ongoing, and more evidence or details may be released in the future that will change the case. Please keep this in mind while listening. The first case we'll be discussing today involves the once 7-member boy group Riize, who are under SM Entertainment. The group, now 6 members, is left with a gap after former member Seunghan was dropped from the group last year in 2024. Before I tell you why and how this member was forced to leave his group, we have to first ask the question: in the West, what are celebrities typically quote-unquote cancelled for? Criminal activity, misconduct on sets, political beliefs? For young idols in South Korea, this looks a little bit different. In Korea, for an idol, things like smoking, dating, swearing, and excessive drinking are among some of the worst things that idols can face controversy for. These might seem more frivolous to fans of Western groups and Western artists, but in Korea, these events are serious. This is because idols are treated as, a step above society, and like their name idols, they are treated as role models for the general public and the fans of the group. This member Seunghan, just 2 months after his debut in November of 2023, had private photos of him released by an alleged friend of his and also stalker fans that showed him in Japan smoking and with an alleged former girlfriend of his in a hotel room. For Korean fans of the group, this was unacceptable behaviour. To have photographic evidence of him living a wild life, in their view, as a teenager was not befitting for an idol and for his group. There was an immediate backlash from the public who requested that SM make him leave the group. SM Entertainment, known for loving their hiatus, decided instead to put him on an indefinite hiatus that lasted 10 months. Over this 10 months, fans were left in limbo, waiting to learn if Seunghan was going to be released from his hiatus and able to continue his activities with the group. International fans in particular, who felt that Korean fans were overreacting to this evidence and that he was just a teenager living a normal life, were particularly outraged by this decision by the company. To not give statements, to not let fans know what was going on, and to not make any statements of defense against people who were targeting Seunghan and who were always speaking out as the loud minority against Seunghan and forcing him to remain outside of the group while the group was promoting very successfully as 6 members. During that time, they had released their first full mini album and had received awards at award ceremonies without him, completely erasing his presence as a member of the group. At this point, it was not certain if Seunghan was going to be able to join the group again, particularly as Korean fans did the worst things imaginable in sending funeral wreaths to the company with Seunghan's name on it, demanding that he be permanently removed from the group as he was not worthy to be a member of Riize any longer. In an attempt to force SM to come to a strong decision and to tell fans what was really happening with Seunghan's departure, fans soon organised a boycott, where none of their music, videos, social media, or any promotions, purchase of merchandise were to be completed, to show the company that their support was reliant on Seunghan being rejoined as a member of Riize and completing the original group of 7. This boycott appeared to be successful in 2024 in October, when Seunghan was re-added to the group. The statement posted said he would be rejoining group activities in November and would be performing at a concert as a part of the group. However, within 24 hours of the statement being posted, Korean fans had sent trucks with messages on the side demanding that Seunghan be once again removed from the group. And they were successful. The company stating fears for Seunghan's safety, and Seunghan himself in a statement claiming that he no longer wanted to damage the rest of his group with his presence and have them be subjected to the same hate that he was receiving, had decided to fully part from the group, and that instead he would be debuting as a solo artist later this year in 2025. This boycott, despite Seunghan's now permanent departure, is still going on. In this new comeback era in May, where the band are releasing new singles in preparation for their first full album, dissatisfied fans are still boycotting the group, not listening to their new songs, as they still feel that Seunghan's treatment was completely unjust, and that the company's mistreatment and lack of clarification surrounding this event was just unforgivable, and that they can no longer support a group of 6 when they know that the company doesn't respect them as artists or as people. NewJeans, since their debut, have been an absolute force in the industry. Their songs, Attention, Ditto, they've blown up around the world, and they soon became one of the most listened to artists on Spotify and streaming services. Their sound, their signature Y2K dreamy bubbly sound, along with the heavy support that their company Hybe was pushing them with, quickly led to them being some of the most awarded, highly supported group of young girls in the industry. And that is a point to mention, is that all the members of NewJeans are extremely young, debuting as teenagers, I think with only one member who was an adult at the time. And this clearly had an effect on how they performed as a group and how they worked behind the scenes with their company. NewJeans as a group were managed by a subsidiary of Hybe under Adore labels. Former CEO Min Hee-jin was the creative director and, as it appears, a mother figure to NewJeans throughout their career over the next 2 years. However, Min Hee-jin as a CEO has been consistently involved in controversy surrounding her marketing of the underage members of the group, including songs in their albums that contain mature themes that were above their age range, and some of the concepts for the music video were a bit exploitative in the opinion of fans. As well as outside of NewJeans, within the company, there was lots of talk of mismanagement and how she, instead of making business decisions, a very important multi-million-dollar business decisions by herself with business experience, she had consulted a traditional shaman for advice on business. And she was of the opinion that her creative direction was revolutionary and that she started it, and that the groups after NewJeans who promoted with similar concepts were copying her and plagiarizing her work. There was another group under Hybe that was released under a different subsidiary called Islet, who were another girl group with a similar sound and concept to NewJeans. And Min Hee-jin just couldn't let this go, despite the fact that her entire concept for NewJeans was also copied. In the 90s in Mexico, there was a group called Jeans who had almost identical styling and music sound. And to call the group NewJeans as well is just a blatant ripoff. But Min Hee-jin was insistent and was very strong in her claims, and she pointed accusing fingers at every person in the industry. She claimed that other girl groups like IVE and aespa were copying her. Everyone there was just copying her and that they couldn't do anything without her. And HYBE filed a case to try and have her removed as the CEO of HYBE, which she won, and she was able to last a few months longer in the company before resigning as CEO of Adore. However, this wasn't the end of the case. NewJeans as a group were still under contract with HYBE, and that they had claimed they were being mistreated by the company, and that other staff members of the company were trying to pit them against fellow HYBE artists. And in a live stream that's now infamous, NewJeans called for the reinstatement of their CEO Min Hee-jin, claiming that they couldn't perform well as a group without her, and that she was vital to the group's image and promotion. Many suspect it was due to the girl's young age that they were so easily manipulated by Min Hee-jin, who was senior and who exerted power over them. And many fans first supported them and felt that they should be able to terminate a contract that isn't being upheld to the same standard that they were first promised it would be. However, during the cases in which NewJeans filed to have their contract terminated in order to join a new company with Min Hee-jin, there was no evidence of mistreatment found, and they were unable to terminate their contract. Later on, because of NewJeans' now insistence in supporting Min Hee-jin, who was a very controversial character that people still do not believe in for rightful reasons, as well as the fact that NewJeans' claims of mistreatment, despite the fact that even before they debuted, they were already ambassadors of top brands and were fully pushed and fully supported by HYBE as their next big girl group and had the success that they had, people decided that until the conflict is resolved, there would be a boycott of all NewJeans content. However, due to the group's wide success and big public audience of people who might not be aware of the case or have no interest in it, the boycott is not as effective as it would be in a smaller company where the fans are more targeted, as they have many casual listeners who would listen to their music despite the controversy. Currently, NewJeans appear to be on hiatus from activity, and if they follow their pattern, they will likely be preparing for another case in which they appeal the decision to not let them terminate their contracts. But it just seems that Min Hee-jin is still working behind the scenes with other people and in making dealings within the members' parents and relatives who own businesses to try and gain funding to support NewJeans if they were to leave the company, despite the fact that they are still under contract and that they are actively violating their contract, which is another reason why the former fans who were in support of NewJeans, who felt that they were in an unjust situation and were trying to break out, have now realized that NewJeans are not going to stop and that they have decided to take the side of someone who isn't doing things within the law and who will stop at nothing to see her vision come true. This case is very convoluted and has been happening for over a year and a half and has involved multiple different cases of different documents and text messages revealed, particularly in a press conference in April of 2024, which was highly popular online, with the outfit that she wore of a green striped t-shirt and a blue baseball cap became viral online with people doing Min Hee-jin costumes in Halloween that year. As of right now, it's still hard to tell what will happen to NewJeans. As they have so strongly resisted their company, it's unlikely that they can continue to have a good relationship with them. They could, try and go back to the company and enjoy the luxury of having a company that has so much wealth and resources, particularly as they are also the manager of the global superstars BTS, and that NewJeans have greatly benefited from having the reputation as BTS's little sisters in a way, but I don't think that they will, and it's their resolve to support Min Jin and to return to her as the CEO of any company, no matter what is ultimately leading to NewJeans' downfall, which is a great shame because these girls are very young and talented, and their sound direction has completely shifted the sound and direction of K-pop and has started a new era. And to have the pioneers of that era to be struck down in such a sad and disappointing way is really disappointing and heartbreaking for K-pop. The next case we're going to be discussing, to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, is one of the more successful examples of a boycott, which is very rare, as boycotts are very unlikely to do real damage. It's only in cases that are particular, like this case, that are able to see real impact. So the group LOONA debuted in 2018 with 12 members. There was once a time online where you couldn't browse any community without seeing the comments "Stan LOONA," or walk into any bathroom stall in your high school without seeing "Stan LOONA" written on one of the walls, with gifs of the members being posted in replies to every online Twitter thread. However, the members of the group have had a very difficult time since their debut under their company Blockberry Creative, referred to by fans as BB. Throughout LOONA's years of activity, there was a lack of transparency regarding the management of the group and the group's promotions, and it appeared many of the members were being forced to work despite their dissatisfaction with their quality of their management. This came to a head when the group's most popular member, Chu, was forced to leave the group as the company claimed that she was being disrespectful and was abusing staff, which, if anyone knows anything about Chu, is that there's this viral photo of her on a train station with a Nintendo playing Pokemon, and she has the widest, most bubbly grin you've ever seen. Chu, throughout her career, has been known as a lovely and bubbly and kind and really sweet girl, and sure, some people may have a public image that is different from them in their private lives, but seeing Chu for over 6 years as someone who has, spread light and joy in her activity throughout her whole career, to hear that she's being dismissed for abusive staff just felt ridiculous to fans. And this was the final incident that spurred on a global boycott of all of their products, from merchandise, music streaming, any social media or promotion. And because the fandom was so small and so dedicated, this was able to be deemed successful in the end. After a tough legal battle with Blockberry, the 11 members who were still remaining in the group were able to terminate their contracts with Blockberry and sign under different labels, now forming as small subgroups, or like Chu are promoting solo. LOONA's boycott case is definitely an outlier in boycott cases, as it is very rare for a boycott to do real damage to many companies. However, as the fans were so dedicated to the case, even uploading alternative videos on Spotify and on YouTube to prevent people from streaming their original content, their efforts proved to be fruitful in the end. Well, that was the 3 cases of boycotting that we discussed today. I hope that these downfalls were good enough for your entertainment. If you would like to hear more about any of the cases discussed in this episode or about any future episodes of the podcast, you can find us on Instagram at The Downfall Pod. This has been the Downfall Entertainment Podcast. Thank you for listening.